let's get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's episode. A few of us, and by few, I mean myself, Sarah Hellburn, and my guest, AJ, we've all brought urban tales to truly set the mood for Halloween. And suggestion number 2 actually comes from our guest tonight. So without further ado, I'm handing this one over to AJ. And let's talk about your suggestion.
Thought I was going to be more comfortable up there. I changed my mind.
Hey, do what you got to do.
And so you had said you had never heard of the Dyaltov Pass incident, right?
Correct. I was waiting for you to say it because me and words just don't do good with each other.
Ask him how to say Yosemite.
How do you say Yosemite?
Yosemite.
Forever, for going forward, that's how I'll say it.
That's also how Trump says it. So take it.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Man, it's funny. I haven't heard a thing about him since.
He
has, side note, we just moved on from clowns, but side note, he
going back.
He has his own social media site coming up next year.
I thought coming out. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't think that I thought that got shut down.
No, he did one. It didn't work out. He forgot the number one thing with social media is engagement. There wasn't a feature for that, so it was more like a blog.
It's for you to just say things and no one else can comment back.
Yeah.
It's an echo chamber.
That's what he likes. He's like, I wish Twitter. The only thing I don't like about it is I wish they wouldn't comment back. All they do is get on there.
That is so funny.
They get on there and they talk about how much they hate me, and it's really, really bad. It's really bad.
He would outlaw talking shit about him if he could have.
Oh yeah.
I promise you he was working on it. That bill got slipped onto the desk every other week. They're like, we can't do this. You know this. I was going to say his name. Can't even think of his first name. Donald. It doesn't even matter.
Donald.
Oh, shit.
I know another
okay, wait.
Donald.
So Patty tells me that on his social media site that's coming out next year, there's the number one rule is that you can't talk shit about Donald Trump.
Mm.
What does that sound like to you?
Sounds like Vladimir.
That's what I'm going to make one exclusively for that. I've got a plethora of usernames. I'll just keep starting them over.
Dude, all right, everybody, we should all just come up with a bunch of throwaway accounts and we'll just spam the.
We're going to be the clowns of his social media account.
Boom.
We're starting the trend right now. Here's the trend. It's starting. What is it today? October 25th. When does it come out?
2021. You heard it first on Another Motherfucking Podcast.
October 31st. Another Motherfucking Podcast.
Scheduling a takeover.
Wait, don't say that.
Okay, cut that too. But
they might take that a little seriously.
Nah, it's a joke, allegedly.
I'm just gonna start throwing allegedly into my sentences. Yeah. I'm not gonna be on the hook for anything.
Nope. Allegedly. Well, especially when you do podcasts, you can't talk about people unless you say that word. Then you can say anything you want, allegedly.
It protects you and the media. Protects the media.
Exactly. So
allegedly.
Allegedly.
This is a lot of this is based on a lot of allegations as well, because it still hasn't. So there was a new release, and I'll find out the latest information on it, but I believe it was last year. I think I was working with you at the time, and the release came out that the Dyaltov Pass had been figured out, whatever the incident was, this phenomenon that I'll get into. They said that, it was an avalanche, and that just doesn't make sense. So we'll get into it. It's from Dyaltov is a Russian pass that goes over a big Ural mountain. So it was an event in which 9 Russian hikers died in the northern Ural Mountains between 1 and 2 February 2nd or 1st, because this Russian stuff, the translation is off. In 1959, for uncertain circumstances, they experienced trekking group from Ural Polytechnical Institute. So it was a group of 9 people who were all like scientists, and and from this institute went up there, and they were all well trained, like hikers and outdoorsmen, and they did a lot of what's it like bio research and stuff. And so, led by Igor Dyaltov, had established a camp on the eastern slopes of the Kholat Cycle, which is actually there, Kholat. It's Kholat. There's a game on the PS4 called Kholat, and it's kind of like a game based on Dyaltov Pass. And so it kind of has like skinwalkers and stuff in it, because that's some of the theories that that took place. But during the night, something caused them to cut their way out of their tent and flee the campsite while inequitably dressed for the heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures. They left their tents, and they were just like, they didn't have shoes, some didn't have clothes. Something terrified them so much that they booked it out of there, up in this in Russia, which is Siberia, where like it's cold as shit, man.
Yeah.
After the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet authorities determined that 6 had died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had been killed by physical trauma. 1 victim had major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in the skull. 4 of the bodies were found lying in running water in a creek, and 3 of these had soft tissue damage to the head and the face. 2 of the bodies were missing their eyes. 1 was missing its tongue, and 1 was missing its eyebrows. The investigation concluded that a compelling natural force had caused these deaths. Numerous theories had been put forward to account for this unexplained deaths, including animal attacks, hypothermia, avalanche, katabatic winds. I'm not even familiar with that term.
Strong winds.
Okay, that makes sense. Infrasound-induced panic, military involvement, or some combination of these.
I have heard of this story. It sounds very familiar. Weren't that you said the bodies, weren't they found like kind of in random various areas too, or some shit?
Like laid out.
Yeah,
they were.
Some of them had damage, but it was like they just couldn't. Nothing was consistent. Like everybody had different things going on.
Well, like they said, one of them had both eyes ripped out.
Right.
One of them had their tongue missing, and the other one had like both of. It didn't say on here, but there's another report that had like one of their hands. Both of their hands were ripped off, but it wasn't like from what an avalanche would have caused. It was like tears and lacerations, and so the Russia opened a new investigation into the incident in 2019. So this is that update, and its conclusions were presented on July 2020. That an avalanche had led to the deaths. Survivors of the avalanche had been forced to suddenly leave their camp in low visibility conditions in inadequate clothing and had died of hypothermia. Audrey Kurakov, deputy head of the regional prospector's office, said it was a horrific struggle. There was no panic, but they had no chance to save themselves under the circumstances. A study led by scientists from ETH Zurich, published in 2021, suggested that the type of avalanche known as a slab avalanche could explain some of the injuries. I still just don't feel like an avalanche. And so, unless did they hear like the rumble did they hear the rumble and they got out and was like, oh shit, it's coming. And then they ran and tried to get away. But that doesn't explain like how an avalanche is just going to like rip 2 eyes out of one person, but no other eyes out of anybody else.
Right. I mean, like maybe like the eyes popped out because of like the strain or some sort of pressure from the snow, or maybe the dude with the tongue bit his tongue off. But like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like those injuries would be consistent with that type of accident. I mean, maybe animals were involved, but even then, like, those were super specific injuries, you know?
Well, this happened in 1959.
Right.
This new research came out in 2019 and then released on 2020. Why that long after? I mean, we're talking what, almost 60, 70 years after?
But well, how long did it take them? Have they found all the bodies? Do we know that? Have they been found? Like that's, I don't know.
Yeah, well, because there were 9 and they found all 9.
All
And
of
they
them?
said this other thing said the survivors of the avalanche. There were no survivors. So I don't know what avalanche, unless you're talking about like survivors that were in the area when
In
the
the
avalanche,
area,
like it's other
maybe.
surrounding areas.
Probably. Well,
I just
maybe
feel like that's something they would have found right away and not like all these years later.
maybe like how long did it take them to find the bodies? Just I don't know. Maybe they were buried under snow. Were they just missing
Yeah,
for a long time? When did they find them? Do you know?
I'll have to look around and see on that because
It sounds like some like fucking superstitious or some ritual type shit because like
Right.
if
Some
it's an
weird
they were
animal,
thinking that
yeah.
or like a fucking Yeti, man.
He was just
just like Pat's fault monster.
Oh yeah.
Nice correlation right there.
Are you gonna
Yeah.
Or connection. But no, like if it was an animal, it like you said, it wouldn't just be the eyeballs on one person and the tongue on the other. It'd be like fucking all of their like fucking
everything.
It would be their meaty bits, their thighs, like.
Well, see, this is a conversation I like to spark about it because I never even thought like you're like it wouldn't have been something animalistic because they would have all been torn to pieces.
Yeah.
But the ways in which the pieces that were left are very specific and like you said almost maybe like ritualistic or what's up in those. If this leads to another like I said, a whole nother phenomenon called skinwalkers, and those are a big deal in Native American culture that they take the form of like these big deer like hanging rotting flesh creatures and they're supposedly the souls of dead Native Americans that if you were like a bad person. A Wendigo, exactly.
Okay.
There's actually another video game. Sorry, I will relate anything to a game. Pretty popular in, I think it came out in 2015, Until Dawn. Fantastic story-driven game, and then it is based on Wendigo because the director of a movie from like the early 2000s called Wendigo. His name is Larry Fessenden, and he helped write that game. And I didn't know that was coming. And so whenever it had like these Wendigo in it, because I'd watched this movie like it was on cable whenever I woke up at my dad's house and it was like 4 a.m. and the wind's blowing and I happened to turn this movie on and it was called Wendigo and it was this terrifying thing. And so I knew it from a young age, but when I played that game and then it comes out and I was like, oh shit, that's
it like brought it back.
Yeah. But then the dude comes out on screen on the game and I was like, wait, that's the guy from the movie and put all the pieces together and you research it and it's a really well put out.
That's like an Easter egg then.
It is like a concept piece from the movie, so it's really cool. But look up Wendigo stuff because that's terrifying too, and that's more related to like Native culture.
And I don't know if you remember, Sarah, but on the National Forest episode, we did kind of talk about the Wendigos as one of the theories for why people disappear.
Yeah, because like I said, it's a big thing in Native culture, so it's common to like America.
Yeah,
since we obviously took their land.
Right. Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So was there anything else said about this incident or?
You can find a lot of, and there's all kinds of information you can get online about very specific things. And that's the other thing is, like I said, they knew exactly how far these people had traveled. They knew exactly how long they had been gone. They knew exactly what they were going up there for. There's all sorts of exact measurements of kilometers and meters that they had traveled. And it's weird to me that, and like they said, or maybe some military involvement. Maybe they crossed into some, some black zones they weren't supposed to be in. And I don't know, man, it's a weird thing.
And this was in Russia too, right?
It was in Russia. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. Scariest place.
Dude, Russia don't play. I would not like survive in the wilderness out there. So, no.
Hell no.
Nope. It's
you
just
you can never count out and like stories like this, you can never count out military, you can never count out aliens, even though
hey,
whatever,
so,
man.
As you said that, I'm reading this related reports. Another group of hikers about 50 kilometers south of the incident reported that they saw strange orange spheres in the sky to the north in the night of the incident or on the night of the incident. So there was another group that was not like 31 miles away, and they
Mhm.
saw these lights where the Dyaltov incident would have happened. Similar spheres were observed in Ivedell and adjacent areas continually during the period from February to March 1959 by various independent witnesses, including the Meteorology Service and the military. These sightings were not noted in the 1959 investigation, and the various witnesses came forward years later.
Atlanteans.
Atlanteans. Yep.
Atlanteans. Doja Cat.
That's crazy, man.
It's wild, man. And there's movies on it. There's podcasts of actual, like full hour-long things of people with much more in-depth research. Like I said, you can look up YouTube videos and hear people talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a really fascinating thing, to one of those that you can get into, and there's a million branches of like opportunity and possibility,